Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Becky Siekmeyer, and I'm the director of the SciTechsperience Internship Program. I am here with my colleague, Piper Cleveland, the Communications and Marketing Specialist for SciTechsperience, and Piper is going to be fielding your questions and helping with our audience polls. We're so excited to share information with you about how small companies can connect to cash and great college talent for STEM internships. Our goal today is to help all of you understand the SciTechsperience Internship Program and how it works so that we can get you up and running and answer any questions that you have. Today's webinar is going to cover three basic things. First, we're going to talk about what STEM is and why it's important to Minnesota's economic future. Then we're going to talk about what SciTechsperience is. You'll learn how the program came to be and how it's funded, who can participate, what the process is. We'll answer the question, what's the catch? We'll share some stories from the field to illustrate what a SciTechsperience internship looks like, and we'll provide answers to frequently asked questions such as how and when to apply. And finally, we'll talk about how to get started with the program. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the questions window at any time. Before we jump into the presentation, let's cover a few housekeeping items. If you've dialed in by phone and haven't already done so, please select telephone in the control panel and enter your audio PIN number in the audio panel to eliminate echo. If you're having any technical or sound issues, please contact GoToWebinar at the link shown on the screen or give them a call at 1-877-582-7011. You have all joined this webinar in listen-only mode, which means everyone but the presenter is muted. However, we do want to hear from you, so please use the questions window in the control panel at any time. Piper will be monitoring this box throughout the webinar, and we'll be sure to let you know when questions come up. If you'd like to review this webinar later, a recording will be posted on our website, which is scitechmn.org, and we'll also be sending a follow-up email with a link to the recording. All right, to kick things off, let's do a quick poll to get a better understanding of who's joining us today. So let us know which of these options best describes your organization. Are you with a for-profit company, an economic development organization, a nonprofit, a government agency, or something else? So altogether, we'll keep the poll open for 10 to 15 seconds. So go ahead and respond now. How are we doing? Still coming in? All right, we'll leave it open for just a few more seconds. All right, Piper, let's close the poll and share the results. All right, so how did we come out? Looks like we mostly have for-profit companies, a few economic development organizations, a nonprofit, one government agency, and a couple others. All right, great. Thank you very much for humoring us on the poll. Okay, let's move into, my photo disappeared. Let's move into the definition of STEM. You've probably heard of STEM, but not everyone is familiar with what the acronym stands for. It's science, technology, engineering, and math. Did you know it's estimated that Minnesota will be home to nearly 500,000 STEM jobs by 2026? That's a lot of positions to keep filled. Many small companies are already feeling the pinch of a tighter labor market and need help finding talent in order to grow. So STEM jobs are important to Minnesota's economy for a couple of very important reasons. First of all, they pay well. The average STEM job pays more than $70,000 per year compared to the average non-STEM job, which is around $43,000. And STEM jobs also weather economic downturns better than other sectors. In response to Minnesota's growing labor needs in STEM sectors, the state's Department of Employment and Economic Development, otherwise called DEED, developed a strategic plan in 2011 to support the science and technology industries and identified a need to prepare and retain our STEM state workforce. So SciTechsperience was born out of the strategic plan and launched in 2012. Internships play an important role in building Minnesota's STEM workforce. Internships prepare students for the real world by providing them with hands-on experience in their majors before graduation. That gives them confidence and makes them much more attractive job candidates. And for students, internships sometimes lead to long-term employment with the company where they did the internship. Internships help employers boost productivity and connect to the skilled talent they need to build their talent pipeline. Specifically, SciTechsperience helps retain our up-and-coming STEM talent by introducing students to the vast array of opportunities at small and mid-sized companies in Minnesota that they may not otherwise have exposure to, and it provides a way for small companies to compete for talent. Now let's dive a little deeper into the nuts and bolts of the program. SciTechsperience connects small to mid-sized Minnesota companies in high-tech sectors, including science, IT, engineering, manufacturing, and more, with college STEM majors looking for paid internship opportunities. This is a free, statewide program funded by an appropriation from the Minnesota State Legislature. The program grant is managed by deed and administered by the Minnesota High Tech Association, known to many people as MHTA. So that's where Piper and I work. The legislature appropriated $2.7 million for SciTechsperience for the 2018 and 2019 biennium. This funding provides employers with a cash wage match of 50% of an intern's wages. The wage match is capped at $2,500 per intern and comes in the form of a reimbursement check. So our goal is to place at least 650 students in STEM internships over the next 2 years. The program has eligibility requirements for both students and companies, so let's first take a look at the student eligibility requirements. To qualify, a student must be a Minnesota resident or attending school in Minnesota, so there must be some residency tie to the state. For example, a student who is from Minnesota and goes to school here, or is from out of state and attends school in Minnesota, both of those situations will qualify. Also, if a Minnesotan goes to college out of state, they can come home for the summer and participate as well. So the only type of scenario that doesn't work is if a student has no residency tied in Minnesota, such as a student who is from Fargo and goes to Iowa State. In that scenario, there is no tie to Minnesota. Students must be 18 years of age or older. They must have a GPA of 2.5 or higher and currently be pursuing a STEM degree. Associate's degree students need to have 24 credits completed at the time they apply. Bachelor's degree students must have 60 credits completed, and these benchmarks are considered the halfway point of these degrees. And new this year is that 15% of the program hires can be students pursuing master's degrees. Unfortunately, we are not able to accept students who already have graduated, but students who are graduating this May can still apply and do a summer internship through SciTechsperience. Finally, students must be legally eligible to work in the U.S., and international students may participate if they have arranged for CPT or OPT. All right, we're often asked, where do the students in the pool come from? And the answer is lots of different places. We attend career fairs at public and private 2- and 4-year colleges and universities all across Minnesota. We work with career centers and STEM student groups to host information sessions on campuses. You can find information about SciTechsperience on dozens of college job boards and on social media outlets. And word gets around. More than 10% of last year's applicants came from Minnesotans who attend college out of state. And employers can also refer students to the program. In 2017, we had more than 1,400 applicants to SciTechsperience. We're currently on track to have at least 1,600 applicants this year. So the pool is quite large. Let's take a look at eligibility requirements for companies. We are looking for small to mid-sized for-profit companies doing business in Minnesota. We define the company size based on the number of employees a company has worldwide. So what's new this year in this area is that the employee cap is now the same in the metro area as it is in greater Minnesota. And that is companies with 250 employees or fewer worldwide can now participate. So it's not just the number of employees a company has in Minnesota, it's actually the worldwide total. Companies must offer a paid STEM internship that provides hands-on industry experience. So the kinds of things that we're looking for are internships that offer insightful, practical, hands-on training that when it's leveraged with their college education is going to be the kind of thing that will help students achieve full-time employment in their field of study when they graduate. So duties should include things like analysis and problem solving, product development, design, testing, implementation and troubleshooting, research, field or lab work, those kinds of things. So positions that primarily involve administrative tasks or marketing, sales, or production and assembly, those are not going to be a good fit for the program. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a statewide program, and you can see the dots on the map on the slide here, and that represents all the cities where we had at least one internship last year. We've actually had internships in more than 70 different cities across the state since the program began in 2012, and of course, we'd always love to add more. All right, let's take a look at the types of industries that are involved in the program. Our main targets include the industries that you see here. The highest number of internships over the past few years have been in IT, manufacturing, biotech, and engineering sectors, but we'd love to see increased participation across all sectors. I also want to add that we will consider internships in other industries as well, if the company can provide a STEM internship with a suitable mentor for a student. So for example, we had an architectural firm in St. Paul that was small enough to participate in SciTechsperience, but it was large enough to have its own in-house IT department. Because they were offering a solid IT internship and had someone to mentor the student, we approved the position. So there are 2 handouts with today's webinar that have the eligibility requirements summarized. You're going to find those in your menu under handouts. All right, we've covered quite a bit of ground already. What questions do you have about eligibility for companies or students? Anybody have any questions?
Hands raised from Jeff Carpenter.
All right, we have one question.
If you want to remind them to add or to type them into the questions box.
Okay, yep, make sure you type your questions into the questions box, please. All right, so someone named Jeff apparently has a question. Jeff, if you could type that into the questions box, that would be great. All right, well, we'll look for Jeff's question and we'll keep moving while we're waiting for that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the process for participating in SciTechsperience. The most important thing that you should know is that it's easy. So first, someone from your company registers him or herself and the company on our website, which is scitechmn.org. The second thing that happens is the company will post an internship on our website. Once the posting is up, you can search the pool of candidates in the site's database and reach out to those students that interest you. In addition, if you meet a student outside the SciTechsperience pool that qualifies for the program, that student can apply to SciTechsperience and become part of the pool. All right, it looks like we have a question.
So Jeff asks, how long do the internships need to be?
All right, how long do the internships need to be? If you can hold on a little bit, I'm going to cover that. It's actually not so much about the hours as it is about the total dollars spent. So I'll get to that in just a minute. Hang on for that. We have one other question.
This comes from Dan, I believe. He asks, are water resource consulting firms that conduct in-field studies eligible to participate in the program?
Absolutely. So the question is, do water resource companies who do field testing qualify for the program? The answer is yes, absolutely. All right, let's get back to the process here, and we'll get to a lot of those frequently asked questions here in just a minute. Okay, so we were talking about the posting a position on the site. And so after your posting is up, you can not only look at the database that has all the student profiles to find students, but we also advertise the new positions to students every week with a new jobs email, and we strongly encourage them to reach out directly to employers. So in other words, it's a two-way communication between students and employers. I like to tell people that it's kind of like eHarmony for internships. So we have a platform where the two can connect to each other. All right, so the next thing that happens is the company decides who to interview and who to hire. We don't tell you who to hire. Once you've made a decision, you let me know who you've hired and I secure a wage match for that internship. So keep in mind that wage matches are available on a first come, first hire basis. So be sure to let me know when there is a hire made. Sounds like we've got another question.
This comes from Jody O'Neill. She asks, we have already made some offers to interns that we found at campus fairs for opportunities this summer. Am I too late?
Why don't you contact me offline? Yeah, my email address is Becky S, that's BECKY, the letter S as in Sam, at mhta.org, and we can talk through that. Let's see, where were we at here? We were talking about matches being available on a first come, first hire basis. So finally, when the internship is complete or you reach $5,000 in gross wages paid, whichever comes first, you will submit a simple one-page form along with supporting documents that include a payroll summary and time summaries to SciTechsperience. And then MHTA will send you a check for 50% of the intern's wages, up to $2,500. All right, so that all sounds great, right? Registration is easy. We have hundreds of pre-screened applicants for you to choose from. You can even add candidates to the pool. So you get to decide who to hire. You find a talented student to boost your company's productivity and bring in fresh perspectives. La-di-da, it all sounds wonderful, right? We even send you a check to cover 50% of the student's wages, up to $2,500. But let's be honest, you weren't born yesterday. This all sounds too good to be true, right? So there must be a catch. Some kind of hidden fee in the fine print or a ton of paperwork to get the reimbursement, right? Nope, there is no catch other than you have to hire the student. There are no fees for employers or students, and the reimbursement process really is simple. All right, now that we've got that cleared up, let's review answers to some frequently asked questions. This is a year-round program, but our official program year runs from September 1st through August 31st. It essentially follows the school year. So when you hear back to school ads, you'll know that our new program year is about to begin. As I mentioned, the employer chooses who to interview and who to hire. If you find an intern candidate outside of the SciTechsperience pool, you can refer that student to SciTechsperience and hire them if the student meets the program eligibility requirements. Each company can hire up to 5 students per program year. There's no lifetime limit, just the annual limit. Students can have only one internship per program year through SciTechsperience. So again, that's between September and August. But they can have additional internships in other program years. So let me try to explain how that works. You can rehire the same student for more than one internship and get a wage match both times, as long as the second internship is in a different program year than the first one, and the student has had at least a 2-month break in service between the 2 internships. All right, so let's break that down with an example. If a student had an internship with your company this summer, like let's say May 15th to August 15th, they could come back for a second internship with you starting around October 15th, which is roughly 8 weeks after the end of the first internship. This scenario works because we would have started a new program year on September 1st, and the internships would fall into 2 different program years. However, let's say you had an intern that started with you in December, and then they wanted to come back for a second internship the following May. That scenario wouldn't work because both internships would be taking place in the same program year. So hopefully that makes sense. We can't do retroactive matches. So in other words, if you've already hired a student prior to finding out about SciTechsperience and posting a job, we aren't going to be able to provide a wage match for that position. Students who are graduating are still eligible for the program, but they do need to register with SciTechsperience before they graduate. So if they're going to graduate in May, they need to apply to SciTechsperience before graduation, and then they have until August of 2018 to begin an internship. We do have a minimum hourly rate for the program. It's at $12.50 an hour, but the average is actually probably closer to $15 an hour, and in some industries, they're paying above that, closer to $18 an hour, especially like in IT positions. So please note that all internships through SciTechsperience must be paid. One question that we get quite often is whether there's a minimum number of hours required for an internship. My response to this question is to focus instead on maxing out the reimbursement for each internship. So for example, if you pay the minimum rate of $12.50 an hour, it takes 400 hours, or basically working like full-time for 10 weeks in the summer, let's say. It takes that much time to reach $5,000 in gross wages. Because we do a 50% match with a cap at $2,500, the threshold of $5,000 is where you max out the reimbursement. So if you pay $15 an hour, it takes 330 hours to reach $5,000 in gross wages and max out the reimbursement. So it's really, it's kind of a combination of number of hours and the hourly rate to get to that $5,000 in gross wages. So it's, like I said, it's not really about the hours, it's more about the dollars combined with the hours. Let me know if you have any questions about that. That was a lot of information. So Piper will keep an eye on the questions box, and we will continue to move ahead here. Okay, sounds like we do have a question.
This question comes from Nathan. He says, do students report back to SciTechsperience or have any defined project deliverables?
Do students report back to SciTechsperience? Actually, we ask them to do a kind of a fun project at the end of the internship. We ask them to create a simple slide, just one slide that has a photo of them doing something at work, along with a quote of what they're going to take away from the internship. We also ask employers and students to take a short survey at the end of the internship so we can get feedback on how things went and how the program was working for them. But other than that, that's it. We strive to do site visits at as many internship locations as we can. There's a lot more internships than there are staff, so we don't get everywhere, but we try to do a site visit and then write a story about our site visit so we can get a little publicity for the company and what the students learning about. So, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty minimal. It's not like there's a ton of reporting on either the student or the employer's side. All right, so keep your questions coming. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit more about this 50% match on the intern's wages. As of today, we have at least 198 wage matches remaining for the 2018 program year. The matches are available on a first-come, first-hire basis, and that means that when you let me know that you've hired a student from the SciTechsperience pool for a position you posted with us, I will reserve a wage match for you. All it takes is an email or phone call with a student's name to reserve that match. We usually lock in all available funding for wage matches by mid-June, but we will continue to place students throughout the summer until all of the funding is allocated. So as I mentioned, there are more than 1,000 students already registered with the program, and more are applying every day. As I mentioned, we expect to have around 1,600 candidates this year. So this is really a good time to register your company and post a position. Even if you're not planning to have the students start until May or June, you can work ahead and get your hires lined up for the summer. So really, this is typically the busiest time of the year for the program, with many students and employers applying now. So it's definitely not too late to get going. All right, I want to do a second poll, and that is, what barriers do you face in hosting an intern at your company? Is it funding the position? Is it setting up an internship program? Maybe it's writing job descriptions, finding candidates, or getting approval from management. Let us know if any of those things are barriers for you. I guess if it's none of the above, I forgot to put in a response for that. So we'll leave the poll open for a few more seconds. Looks like we've got everybody weighing in. All right. What do you think, Piper?
About half have voted.
About half have voted. So maybe people had other answers that weren't provided. Sorry about that. Next time I'll remember to include other All right, well, why don't we go ahead and close the poll and share the results. Let's see what we've got. All right, so quite a few people are looking for help with setting up an internship program and finding candidates, and then a few with, wow, yeah, so funding the position. Okay. All right, so kind of scattered across the board. Well, good news for you is we have ways to address pretty much all of those barriers. The funding the position part, of course, we're providing the 50% wage match. If you need help setting up an internship program, we have some really great resources on our website, on the blog page, that will help you craft an internship program, job descriptions, and more. Sounds like we have another question.
This question comes from Jill. She says she's attending this webinar to find out how to connect employers to the project, especially in the arenas that affect our community: broadband access, water facilities, and workforce growth. Which sounds awesome. Which is a comment, she says.
Yeah, okay. Well, again, please contact me after the webinar. My email address is Becky, S, B-E-C-K-Y, the letter S as in Sam, at mhta.org, and my phone number is 952-230-4241. We've got lots of materials that we can provide to you that you can share in your community. That would be fantastic. All right, so getting back to the poll, in terms of finding the right candidate, we have a very large pool of candidates that are pre-screened and ready to go. If you can see them in the database, that means that they are already pre-approved based on those eligibility requirements you saw earlier, and you can refer students to the program if you have students approaching you, or maybe you've already started some of your own recruiting. And as far as approval from management, we'll do what we can to help you make the case for your next intern. Interns really are an affordable way to boost your company's productivity in the short term and build your talent pipeline in the long run. And really, this wage match is a great way to reduce your company's risk of bringing on that new person. So let me know if we can help you with any of those things. We've got lots of materials, again, on our website. If you go to the blog page and access where it says categories on the right-hand side and select employer resources. A few webinars that you might be interested in include how to maximize your job descriptions to compete for great talent. We have one on interviewing called How to Find a Great Fit for Both of You, and another one on how to host a successful internship for you and your student. That one I really highly recommend. It's an interview with two companies who have used the SciTechsperience Internship Program, who approached how they do internships quite differently, so it'll give you some great ideas. And we've got resources in article form in there as well, so check those out. Sounds like we have another question.
Here's a question from Jeff. He says, if all applicable taxes are taken out of the initial wages for an intern, what does the employer need to do when money is given back from the system?
That is something you would have. So the question was, after the applicable taxes and such are taken out, what does the employer need to do? That is something you would need to talk with your accountant about. I would assume it would be the same as what you do with any other employee, but our wage match is not based on the net wages paid, it's based on gross wages paid. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. So let's move on to talking about what a SciTechsperience internship looks like. We're going to take look at 3 examples of internships that have happened through the program. All right, our first example is Sabrina. She was majoring in computer science at Augsburg University when she got an internship at a company called Third Iron. She was interested in exploring library science, actually, so Third Iron's app called Browsine was really intriguing to her. It makes scholarly journals browsable to researchers online. So Sabrina's duties involved things like writing code for the app and testing an online promotional tool. It was really kind of a unique setting in that Third Iron used what they called a distributed team model. So they had employees working remotely and jointly on projects from several remote locations in several states, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, and Kansas. So this was a really great experience for Sabrina to learn how to jump into the middle of a project and work with a team on coding versus building her own project from scratch, which is what she was used to doing in school. All right, our second example is Brendan. He's studying mechanical engineering at Itasca Community College. He is from Bemidji and worked at a hometown company called LaValley Industries. LaValley Industries makes material handling attachments that allow workers in the pipeline and utilities industries to pick up and move really huge pipes and poles, and it allows them to do that quickly and safely. So Brendan's job included testing prototypes and developing design solutions using 3D modeling software to fix the glitches. And I did a site visit with LaValley Industries in the summer that Brendan was there, and he told me that he wasn't sure how well he would like working at a computer all day because he really likes to work with his hands. But he said he was having so much fun on his projects that he thought about work all the time, even when he was fishing, which I thought was really classic, especially for someone from Minnesota. All right, our third example is Adam. Adam and another SciTechsperience intern worked for an ag startup company called Robot Systems, spelled R-O-W-B-O-T. Robot is developing a robotic device that goes between rows of corn and applies nitrogen fertilizer. So when the robot gets to the end of the row of corn, it uses GPS to turn around and go down the next row of corn. It's like so cool. Anyway, Adam is a mechanical engineering student at Mankato, and his work included troubleshooting mechanical elements of the robot. So as you can see, these are really high quality internships that give students a really good sense of what it will be like to work in their field. And because these are high caliber students, the companies get help solving real challenges at an affordable price and potentially finding future talent for their teams. It's a win-win for both students and the company, and also for the state of Minnesota when we can keep this high-end talent here rather than having the brain drain where students are going out to the east or west coast. There are lots of other stories about SciTechsperience internships on our blog. So again, you can find that at scitechmn.org. What questions do you have about the types of internships that we are looking for? Let us know if you have any questions about that. Again, Piper is steadfastly monitoring the questions box, so as things come in, we will address them right away. Okay, let's move on to how to get started. All right, if you go to our website, scitechmn.org, right on the home page, there is a button in the blue box, the blue employer section, that says Enroll Now. There's also red buttons on the right side of your screen. So if you're on another page that say Employer Enroll, you can click that button. And really, there's just 3 simple steps to getting started. In the first step, when you click on the Employer Enrollment button, you're going to register yourself by creating a username and password and enter your contact information. In the second step, you're going to register your company. You're going to need things like your EIN number, your federal tax ID number, your address, your phone, your website, kind of basic information. Just be sure to complete steps 1 and 2 at the same time. There's no way to come back and jump in and halfway through. You need to do 1 and 2 together. So once those first 2 steps are complete, you can either move on to step 3 and post an internship if you're ready, or you can come back and do it later. So what will happen then is I will get an email from our system that lets me know you've registered, and I'll log into the site and review your application. So more than one person from your company can register with SciTechsperience and have access to your company's account and postings, but each person should create their own login ID. What questions do you have about getting registered or posting a position? If you have anything, let us know. Again, type it into that questions box, and Piper will let me know what questions you have. So if you have any questions at all about registration, how the wage match works, who qualifies, if there's anything that we haven't covered that's still unclear, please let me know. All right, we'll hang on here for for a little while longer. And while you're thinking about questions, why don't we move into our third poll? And that is hold on, before we launch the poll, we have a question.
Angie wants to know, are public health interns covered under STEM?
Unfortunately, that's not covered under STEM. Anything that is health care related is not going to be, so like nursing, public health, those things are not covered under STEM. It's more of the hardcore science, technology, engineering, math, statistics, data analysis, those kinds of things. So chemistry, biology, physics, and any kind of engineering, is kind of more of what we're looking for. Good question. Okay, got another one?
And Jill wants to know, in regard to public health, they do work with soil analysis, septic systems, etc.
Is the public health position for a government agency or a for-profit company? Jill, if you want to answer that, or we can connect offline. Generally, the public health majors, so the way we determine whether or not something is going to qualify is we look at the Department of Homeland Security's list of approved STEM majors for international students who are seeking something called OPT, which is, I can't remember exactly what it is. It's like a Latin words, but it's basically lets them extend their time in the U.S. to work for an extended period of time after they're done with college. And so that's the list that we would use. So we would check that list to see if public health is on that list.
Jill asks if there's a place where she can see that list of approved majors.
Yes, again, if you could contact me after the webinar, that would probably be helpful. I could send you the PDF that we use that has that list. Okay, so let's move into our last poll. And this one is going to help us understand how best to reach employers to let them know about SciTechsperience in future webinars. So how did you hear about our webinar today? Was it from an email from Deed? Was it from MHTA? Was it from SciTechsperience? Maybe you heard about us on social media. Maybe a kind friend told you about the webinar happening. So let us know how you heard about us. And we'll leave the poll open for just a little bit longer. How are we doing, Piper?
87, 93 have voted.
All right.
All right, yeah, that's probably good. 100.
All right, very good. So, great. A lot of you heard about it through Deed, some from us or from MHTA, and others. So great. Thank you very much for letting us know. That's helpful. Sounds like we have another question.
Jeff asks, is the pool of candidates that you have, explain what the intern is looking for, and is there a place where they enter a specific area of the state that they are willing to work?
Oh, good question. So first of all, do the students say what they're looking for? Was that one of the questions? So in the student profile, there is an option for them to not only put in their resume, they can also put down sort of a, why they're interested in their major and what they are hoping to achieve. Certainly, those are questions that should be asked during a phone interview or via email if you're exchanging emails with a student. But that's one way to look at it. And there isn't a way right now for them to put in which areas of the state that they are interested in working. It really varies by the student. If you are in greater Minnesota, I know housing and transportation tend to be challenges. And so I would encourage you to think creatively about housing options for students. We've actually had companies that have provided housing either with one of the employees at the company or renting out a cabin one time or an apartment where they had a couple interns living. An old farmhouse. So I've seen some pretty interesting situations there where students were willing to move as long as as housing was kind of taken care of. Transportation can also be a challenge if they don't own their own car and aren't able to find housing within walking or biking distance of where their work will be. So again, those are questions that you'll need to ask the student, but it is something that in future updates to the site that we are going to be including for students to say where they are willing to, if they're willing to relocate for a position. All right, so that's it for the formal part of the presentation. Sounds like we have another question. Yes?
Nathan asks, does SciTechsperience reimburse for personal protective equipment needed for the position?
So the question is whether or not we can reimburse for personal protective equipment. And the answer to that, I believe, is no. I think the state will only reimburse for wages. So it's a wage match. So unfortunately, I don't think we wouldn't be able to do that. All right, so we're going to be here for a little bit longer yet. So we'll hang out to answer your questions. In the meantime, be sure to share SciTechsperience with your colleagues and any industry associations in your area. Again, we've uploaded flyers as handouts for you, so check the control panel on the right to download those documents. The flyers are also available on the employer page and the student page at scitechmn.org, and they provide some general information about program eligibility. If you'd like help crafting communication about SciTechsperience to send out to other people in your network, let us know. We'd be more than happy to help. And again, a reminder that GoToWebinar will be sending out a link to the recording of this presentation to anyone who registered for the webinar online. And you may also request the link from me via phone or email. It takes us a day or two to get the recording and do any editing, and then we'll be uploading it onto YouTube and onto our blog. So my contact information is on the slide. Please contact us with any questions that you have. And with that, I guess we'll call it a day, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye now.